Picture this. A battlefield, right? But instead of just two sides slugging it out, you've got four. The disciplined Ultramarines, the super tough Death Guard, the relentless Necrons, and, the swarming Tyranids, all clashing.
Yeah, it paints a pretty chaotic picture, doesn't it? And that's exactly what we're getting into today. We've got this really detailed after-action report from a recent tabletop battle featuring those exact four factions.
It sounds intense, like a real complex ecosystem of war.
It really was. Think of it less like a duel and more like a free-for-all, strategically speaking.
Okay, so we're diving deep into this specific 650-point side game from April 2025. And the goal isn't just, who won, it's how they won.
Exactly. What were the key moves? Where did strategies succeed or maybe fall apart? We want to dissect the mechanics of it all.
And for you listening, this isn't just a game recap. It's more like a case study, wouldn't you say? Battlefield tactics, unit effectiveness.
Mm-hmm. And adapting to multiple threats at once. It's really a distilled lesson in strategic thinking, honestly. Stuff that applies way beyond the tabletop.
All right, let's jump straight into turn one. The opening moves. The Ultramarines, they make a pretty aggressive play right off the bat.
The scout infiltration, you mean? Pushing towards that main objective in the ruins.
Yeah. High risk, high reward, right? Especially with, potentially fast Tyranids nearby. What's your take on that opener?
Well, it's classic, isn't it? You want to grab that central ground early, but in a four-player game, being aggressive like that can paint a target on your back.
From multiple directions, too.
Precisely. It's that balance between taking the initiative and maybe exposing yourself too much too soon.
And bam, almost immediately, a huge response. The Necron Doomstalker, that big walker.
Oh, yeah. Long range, heavy hitter.
It just unleashes, completely obliterates those poor scouts. Wow.
That's a statement piece, isn't it? The Doomstalker immediately showing its reach and power. It basically tells everyone, watch out for this thing, forces you to account for it.
Definitely establishes the Necrons as a threat. Meanwhile, while that's happening, the Tyranid Leapers, super quick, nasty in close combat, they surge forward, grabbing the center.
Right into the vacuum, almost. That early push for the middle suggests the Tyranids want to get stuck in fast, leverage their melee strength.
Makes sense. Control the center, control the flow.
Pretty much. It gives them a launch pad and denies that key terrain to everyone else. Sets the tempo.
Okay, so moving into turn two, things really start to escalate. The narrator in the report, they commented on the Ultramarines maybe being a bit too eager.
Contrasting it with the Necrons, who are maybe a bit more cautious, letting things develop.
Yeah. So what can we learn from that contrast, especially in a four-way fight like this?
Well, it really highlights threat assessment, doesn't it? The Ultramarines focused hard on that objective, which makes sense in a two-player game, maybe, but here...
Too many angles.
Exactly. Maybe didn't fully account for all the dangers. The Necrons, being more measured, could react, like we saw with the Doomstalker taking out the scouts. Patience can pay off when things are this messy.
Okay, then we see the Ultramarine and Furnace Marines. They move up to hold their home objective. Seems safe enough, right? Just defending their turf.
You'd think so. A standard defensive play.
But nope. They get hammered by combined fire. Necrons and Tyranids targeting them.
Ouch. Exposed.
And then, to add insult to injury, the Death Guard deep strike in. Those really tough Death Shroud Terminators, plus that horrible beast of Nurgle.
Right onto them.
Right onto them. Finish off the Infernus Marines completely. It's a brutal lesson about leaving units out in the open.
It really is. It shows you can't just think about your objective. You have to think about your vulnerability from all sides. They became an easy target for coordination, and the Death Guard just pounced with that deep strike.
Always got to worry about things dropping in from orbit.
Always.
Yeah.
Especially with Death Guard.
But the Ultramarines hit back a bit. Their own Terminators deep strike in right into the center and manage to take out one of those Tyranid Leapers.
Okay, so trading blows in the middle. And the Ballistus Dreadnought.
Right, the big gun platform. It shoots at the Winged Hive Tyrant, the big Tyranid monster, lands some hits, wounds it, but doesn't kill it.
So, some success with the Termies, but the big threat, the Hive Tyrant, is still kicking. That's tough.
Yeah, a real mixed bag for the Ultramarines there. The Terminators show their value, dropping right in, but failing to take down that Tyrant could be costly.
It often is. You need to commit enough firepower to eliminate those high-priority targets. Otherwise, they just keep causing problems.
And speaking of seizing opportunities, remember the Necron Doomstalker cleared out those other Leapers from the center.
Yeah.
Well, immediately after that, the Death Guard Blightlord Terminators, their other tough Termi squad, they teleport right onto that same spot.
Wow. Talk about perfect timing.
Right, just swooped in and grabbed that prime real estate the second it was free. Very slick.
That's textbook opportunism. Saw the gap, took the ground. Shows great battlefield awareness by the Death Guard player. And maybe a lesson for the Necrons: kill and secure, don't just kill.
Good point. Okay, turn 3. The report calls it carnage.
Usually not a good sign for everyone involved.
Definitely not for the Ultramarines. They're assault intercessors, the guys with chain swords. They charge the Death Shroud Terminators.
Ooh, that's a tough fight for the intercessors. Death Shroud nasty.
But surprisingly, they actually take down 2 of them.
Really? Wow, punching above their weight?
For about 5 seconds. Then the Death Shroud counterattack, plus that regenerating beast of Nurgle gets involved.
And the intercessors just melt away.
Completely annihilated. This is a really stark example of combined arms, you know?
Yeah.
The synergy between the Death Shroud and the beast.
Absolutely. The intercessors had that initial success, which the report notes later as being cost-effective, but the Death Guard's combo was just too much. Resilience and hitting power working together.
And just when the Ultramarines thought it couldn't get worse, guess who's back?
Uh-oh. Let me guess. Doomstalker.
The Doomstalker. Takes aim at the Ballistus Dreadnought, which was already wounded.
And finishes it off.
Boom. Reduced to scrap metal. That thing was just relentless for the Necrons.
Definitely earning its points. It becomes this huge priority target that you have to deal with, but its range makes that really difficult.
Meanwhile, back in the center, the Ultramarine Terminators are still brawling with the Death Guard Blightlord Terminators.
Right, the Termi versus Termi fight.
And their Stormbolters, the standard guns.
Yeah.
Pretty much useless against that heavy Death Guard armor.
Yeah, not surprising. Need more punch than that.
But they're power fists. Now, that's a different story. They actually managed to take down 3 of the Blightlords with those.
There you go. Shows the importance of having the right tool for the job, doesn't it? Storm bolters for chaff, power fists for smashing heavy targets in melee.
Elsewhere, things are getting weird. A Tyranid Psychophag Chase fights a Chaos Spawn.
Okay.
It's basically a draw. They just kind of bounce off each other.
Huh. Sometimes it happens.
But the Tyranid Gene Stealers, they live up to their hype. They slice through 2 little squads of Nurglings, those small chaos demons.
Yeah, Gene Stealers are perfect for that kind of work. Fast, lots of attacks, great against light infantry like Nurglings.
And all this time, the Necrons are just chilling. Well, not chilling, but holding their deployment zone.
Playing defensively.
Shooting their long-range guns, contributing to the chaos. But the report says they took no damage this turn.
Wow. That's impressive. Shows their durability and the value of that cautious standoff approach they took early on. Let the others bleed each other.
Okay, turn 4. Things look pretty grim for the Ultramarines in the middle. It's just their Captain Aurelius left.
Just the captain. Against what?
Against the Death Guard Lord of Contagion, their big boss, and the remaining Blightlord Terminators.
Oof. That's not good odds. A real last stand situation.
Yeah, looks heroic, but probably doomed, right?
Well, characters can be surprisingly tough. But yeah, it's an uphill battle. Still, holding the line, even for a turn, can be important.
And while Aurelius is making his stand, those Chaos Terminators are busy grabbing more objectives.
Ah, see, the Death Guard are playing the mission. Even while fighting, they're securing those points. That's key.
Definitely. Shows their focus wasn't just on killing, but on actually winning, according to the rules.
Exactly. Objective control is often paramount.
So Aurelius, in a final blaze of glory, he actually manages to take down 1 more Blightlord Terminator.
Nice. Go, Captain.
But then, he finally goes down, killed by mortal wounds from the Lord of Contagion's abilities.
Ah, those special rules can be deadly.
And get this. In the same fight, the Lord of Contagion also kills the Winged Hive Tyrant.
What? He took down the Hive Tyrant too. That guy had a good turn.
Seriously, that's a massive swing, taking out the Ultramarine leader and the main Tyranid threat in one go.
Wow. That really highlights the impact characters can have, especially tough, killy ones like the Lord of Contagion. His resilience and damage output were huge there.
But the Tyranids aren't completely out of it. Their Gene Stealers rally, clean up the last of the Nurglings, and also take out the final Chaos Spawn.
See? Still doing work. Even late in the game, fast units like Gene Stealers can mop up weakened targets and grab those last few kills. Still contributing.
Okay, final turn. Turn 5. The Necrons, who've been mostly defensive.
Finally making a move.
They make a big move. They advance decisively and clear the Death Guard off the Ultramarines' home objective, the one the Death Guard took earlier.
Ah, strong counterpunch. Good timing. They waited until the Death Guard were maybe a bit stretched or weakened.
Seems like it. And guess who's still shooting?
Don't tell me.
The Doomstalker takes out the last Death Shroud Terminator and Typhus, another Death Guard character.
Geez, that Doomstalker paid for itself 3 times over.
Absolutely. And then the Necron Royal Warden and his warriors focus fire and finally bring down that ridiculously tough beast of Nurgle.
Took enough shots, I bet.
Massed fire did the trick. And then their fast destroyers zip onto an empty objective. So a really strong final push from the Necrons, killing lots of key stuff.
Sounds like a devastating turn for them. Really cleaning house at the end.
Yeah.
Coordinated, focused elimination.
Here's the twist. Despite that Necron surge, and despite the Death Guard only having their Lord of Contagion left standing,
Yeah.
the Death Guard win.
They win. With just one model left. How?
Objectives. They held more objectives for longer throughout the game, and crucially, they destroyed the most enemy units, 7 total.
The victory conditions, not just about who's left standing.
Exactly. Necrons got 5 units, Tyranids 2, Ultramarines 0 whole units destroyed. So the Death Guard played the long game, focused on points and attrition.
That's fascinating. It really hammers home that you have to play the mission. The Death Guard strategy, grinding it out, controlling space, racking up kills steadily, it worked, even though they were almost wiped out themselves.
So looking back, especially from the Ultramarine perspective, what are the big lessons here?
Well, several things jump out from the report. First, those Terminator Storm Bolters. Not great against heavy armor like Death Guard Terminators.
Right, but the Power Fists worked well.
Exactly. Match your weapons to the target. Second, those Assault Intercessors, while they died, they actually did surprisingly well against Chaos Terminators for their cost. Maybe a good value unit in melee.
Okay, what else? The Ballistus Dreadnought seemed reliable.
Yeah, the report mentioned it was consistently wounding things, even if it didn't always kill, reliable damage source. But a huge lesson for the Ultramarines, and really anyone, screen your deployment zone.
Against Deep Strikers, you mean?
Absolutely. They got caught out by that Death Guard deep strike. Better screening could have prevented or delayed that, protected those Infernus Marines.
Makes sense. And understanding your enemy, right? Like the Death Guard's tricks.
Knowing they reduce toughness, deal mortal wounds, and how tough that Beast of Nurgle is with its healing. You need a plan for that. You can't just charge in expecting normal outcomes.
The report also called out the Gene Stealer's melee power.
Yep, gotta respect those claws. And the Doomstalker, powerful, but maybe a bit swingy or unpredictable, as the report put it. High impact, but maybe not always reliable.
Right. And the danger of that central objective in this game. Maybe too much of a kill zone early on.
Could be. Sometimes grabbing the center isn't worth the exposure, especially with 4 players shooting at it. Maybe focusing your own deep strike on a weaker, less defended objective might have been smarter. Force the enemy to react to you.
Good tactical point. Using positioning too, right? Staying out of sight but still grabbing objectives.
Fundamental stuff. Use terrain. Don't overexpose yourself, especially when you have multiple enemies. And we saw the Death Guard do this well-focused fire to finish off weakened units, secure the kill. That helped their unit count for victory points.
2 last things the report mentioned. Using special abilities like stratagems that deal mortal wounds against really tough targets.
Crucial against things like Terminators or monsters. Chip away at them, even if you can't punch through their armor easily.
And just remembering cover saves. Seems basic, but every little bit helps units survive.
It really does. Don't underestimate terrain. All those little advantages add up over a game.
And just for context, the report lists the Ultramarine Force, Captain and Terminator Armor, Assault Intercessors, Ballistus Dreadnought, Infernus Squad, Scout Squad, and a Terminator Squad. Helps picture what they were working with.
Yeah, knowing the list helps understand the choices made and why some fights went the way they did. It gives context to their strengths and maybe their limitations in this particular 4-way brawl.
So, wrapping up the key takeaways from this whole chaotic fight, it seems like understanding unit roles is huge.
Absolutely. And assessing all the threats, not just the one right in front of you.
Plus that relentless focus on objective control like the Death Guard showed. That seems to be what really decided it.
Definitely. Adaptability, awareness, playing the mission. That's what wins complex fights like this. It's not always just about having the biggest guns or the toughest units. Strategy and opportunism can really carry the day.